Welcome, everyone, to the G Note Podcast. I am your host, Jason Spicy G Goldman, and I'm a Grammy-winning record producer, arranger, and musician. I've been a music professor at USC for over 22 years, and I am most known for writing and producing music for the iconic crooner Michael Bublé over the past 2 decades. This is a podcast for musicians who want advice and strategies on navigating the music industry. If you're not a musician but a music fan, I promise there is plenty in here for you as well. On this pod, we talk all things music. On today's pod, we are talking about the importance of collaborations. Let's go. All right, folks, thanks for having me back in your ears. Today we are talking about collaborations and why they are one of the most important things you can do as a musician and artist, period. Here are just some of the huge benefits of collaborating. Working with other musicians and people help make you a better musician and hopefully a better person. You know, you get to share your ideas and thoughts and bounce them off of another person, right? You get their opinions, and hopefully that can help inform you on maybe some good things you're doing or some things that you can do to improve. They can help you with your deficiencies, and potentially they can show you tips on how to get better. And typically this won't happen like a teacher would teach, but rather they do something or play something and you ask, hey, how did you do that? Or you just observe something and you learn, right? I mean, everyone knows it's like when you're in school, there's like a school environment. So it's different than learning something that you hear or see from someone else live. And even if you find that the collaborator that you're working with ends up not being really great, you can always learn what not to do, right? Some potential pitfalls, and then you could potentially help them so that you are, again, giving back or paying it forward, so to speak, and helping someone else as well. It's not just about what you want, it's about, helping as well. So rather than having to do everything by yourself, right? This is one of the biggest parts of collaboration besides the creativity part. But you get 2 people, maybe even more, potentially splitting some or all of the work. And this can be absolutely huge. I mean, think about it. How much time are you putting into a particular project right now? And now think about if that time were cut in half. That's saving you potentially 50% of your time that you can devote somewhere else. It could be to another project. It could be to practicing, getting better. It could be to the same project, but maybe you're working on a different aspect that was just soaking up a lot more time. Another person will hopefully be invested in what you're doing. They may not know what you've been doing, period. And hopefully by collaborating with them, they can not only draw attention to what you are doing, but more important, it may be something that they are interested in. And of course, especially if you listen to this podcast, can lead to an opportunity for you. Whether it be, potentially they want you to work on their project, so they hire you to do something, or, you do something for them and they do something for you. So kind of like, an exchange. Collabs can bring a chance for publicity. And as I just mentioned, an exchange, but basically an advertising exchange, right? Tapping into another artist's fan base. This can be an absolute game changer. We see this all the time with high-profile artists. Many big artists, bring in other artists to drive in new fan bases. Of course, your main fan base is the most important, but you always want to be having new fans come in and participate and hopefully share your music with someone else. That's how you grow. So almost every time I see a high-profile artist now, there seems to be some sort of a guest artist nowadays. Not just for the sake of them getting a new fan base, but it does break up the show as well. And by the way, I'm not talking about opening acts. I'm talking sometimes the guest artist will do 2 or 3 songs by themselves in the middle of someone else's show, besides doing like a duet or something. When I last saw Billy Joel a few years back when he was in town, I guess it was right before COVID. Wow. Pink actually showed up and sang 2 songs in the middle of the set. I thought it was kind of weird because I was like, why is Pink singing with Billy Joel? It's like Billy Joel's like a consummate songwriter and Pink doesn't really write her own music. So I thought it was a little bit weird. I mean, they're both really good singers, but then I thought about it and it was really because they're trying to drive potential people that listen to Pink into what Billy Joel's doing. The Foo Fighters regularly invite guests on stage. I've seen them invite, Rick Astley on stage. I've seen them invite, Michael Bublé was on stage with them, right? Different fan bases can really help to grow an artist. I just saw the Black Crowes a few months back and they invited the Rolling Stones guitar player, Keith Richards. And that's probably a really good move because people that listen to the Black Crowes, probably like Rolling Stones also. So while you might not have a big social media following, perhaps the artist that you're collaborating with does. Perhaps the collab artist doesn't know many good producers or musicians. So the exchange ends up being you get to work with someone that has a very high profile, social media following. And the collaborator gets potentially some high-end production or high-level musicianship, whatever you bring to the table. Remember, in the music business, whether you like it or not, this is always touchy, but there's always an angle. I mean, this is the truth, folks. I know a lot of people don't like to say it, but it really is the truth. And what I mean is that everyone has something that they want from you or a thought or idea on the way they can benefit potentially from you, and you will do the same thing. I mean, it's inevitable. If you're an avid listener to this pod, I've said in a past episode that, remember, most people do want to help you. They just don't. Well, a collab gives them a reason to help because they're getting something out of it. Now, I know this all kind of sounds shitty because most people don't want to go into something thinking this way, right? You don't want to think like, well, this is what I can get from this person and this is what I can get from this person. Yes, that's true. And you really shouldn't go into it like if you don't respect the other person that you're collaborating with or want to collaborate with, if you don't really respect them, there's no point in doing a collab with them, right? I mean, yeah, I know you're saying, well, they could have social media following, but it's not a good habit to get into that, right? Because it'll always be there and on your conscious all the time. It's like, man, I'm really kind of using this person. Now, of course, you don't have to act like you want something, but in the back of most people's mind, it's just always there. So here's a couple of tips. So before asking someone to collaborate, you should really think about what you do well and what you can bring to the table. Then try and find someone else who brings something to the table that you cannot, right? That you or just are not able to bring to the table. Once you know these two things, you can then make a pitch to the collaborator that makes sense for both of you. I say this all the time. It's like people who look for managers. What do managers look for? Well, in order for them to make money, you need to be working and be able to bring them in money. And you need to be able to bring yourself in money. And if they don't see any potential for you bringing them money, or you're not bringing in, them any money right now, what's the point of them pushing you? Or maybe they'll take you on, but they won't really push you. So you want to make sure that it seems mutually beneficial and try to look at it from both angles. Here's an example, a personal example. I produce music. I do a lot of songwriting. I arrange a lot of music for big band and orchestra. I play all the saxophones and I mix and I master music. So engineering. What I don't do is sing. I mean, yeah, I can throw some background vocals on, but there's no way you're getting me to sing any sort of lead line. I also don't play a brass instrument, or I don't play rhythm section instruments at a very high level. I mean, again, I can play some basic rhythm section stuff, but not at the highest level. And I also don't have a big social media following. So these are things that, again, it's not that I have to write them down. I just know them about myself. So personally, so many times what I'm looking for are high-level singers who have a great social media following. And luckily, I have a lot that I can bring to the table and offer. For me personally, the way I learned how to produce is by getting people to collaborate with me. Yes, I could have hired singers and songwriters, but the cost adds up quickly, very quickly. So when I started learning how to produce, which was around 2010-ish, I was looking for YouTube artists. At that time, there were YouTube artists, which were basically YouTubers, singer-songwriters, who would post constantly of them singing cover songs, sometimes 2-3 times a week. And at that time, YouTube started to explode. And what ended up happening is it created this whole subculture of the music scene. And, for those that were looking to get noticed. But what quickly happened was that they were not necessarily getting noticed by labels, because a lot of them actually, the vast majority of them never got on a record label. But what happened was they were getting millions of views on their own and creating their own scene, really. So what I ended up doing was reaching out to about, I think it was like 10 or 15 people back then. I would see them sing. I would just scour the internet for hours and just listen to people singing. And, it was always with an acoustic guitar or a piano and just them singing. And so, like I said, I reached out to 10 or 15, and then 2 of them actually got back to me. And one of the artists was a wonderful singer named Juliet Waybrett. She fit what I was looking for, which was a songwriter who sang originals, as not a lot of the YouTubers dared to go away from covers at the time, because they were, what was driving them was that people would do like a search for a cover and their cover would pop up. That's how they would get their numbers. So she actually sang originals. She had a unique voice and had a solid fan base of about 60,000 subscribers, and was into pop rock, which is what I was really working on at the time. So I asked if she would be interested in collabing on a couple of songs, and we did. The incentive was I would produce, in the beginning, I would produce a song and she would just have to post it. That's literally it. There was nothing else happen. There was no contracts, none of that. I don't even think people do contracts that much anyways nowadays, unless you're doing like a major record deal. And all we did is we split the songs, the master and the songwriting 50-50. That's it. And at the time she would bring in her songs. So, I can't remember if we split that as well. I think in the first couple songs, she just kept all of her songwriting, because again, I just produced the song. But then as we continued to work together, I would start to add things to the song and we would actually collaborate in that way. So she came into my little studio and we cut, one of her songs. And then this is when I started really learning how to collaborate with songwriters and vocalists. Here's a quick snippet of a chorus of a song we did together called Numb, which I think you'll really dig.
I'm so numb without you. I need your touch to get through. I can't feel the hands of anybody else on my skin. I'm so numb without you.
Yeah, I still really dig that song. I'm listening to the production elements now and I'm like, oh my God, that was 14 years ago and there's so much I could have done, or maybe it was like 12 years ago, that I could have done production-wise and engineering-wise that, as you continue to grow, you learn more and you can make things sound better. But I still really dig it, and I think it's, Juliet's still a wonderful singer and a great songwriter. And by the way, we would continue to work after that for, I think it was 8 to 10 years, just writing songs. We did an EP together. This was actually from one of the EPs we did. We did collabs with other artists. So that me reaching out to her and her agreeing, that collaboration turned into a pretty long-standing, relationship in terms of music. So we ended up creating quite a bit of music, and sometimes, stuff we didn't even release. We would just do lots of songs to pitch for people. By the way, these collabs don't always work out, folks. Sometimes the collaborator doesn't want to push a project that they're not the leader of, right? And you don't learn this till you're halfway in. Sometimes they may not be into what you both created, and you may not be into it either, or they just honestly don't care about it as much as you had hoped. Collaborating isn't easy. It's most of the time, I would say it's like 50-50. It's a lot of give and take. Take too much, and the collaborator doesn't feel as connected to it. Give too much, and you lose a sense of the project for yourself, and in the blink of an eye, it can turn into the collaborator's project without you even knowing until it's too late. So how do you find a collaborator? Well, there's many ways to go about doing this, but let me give you a couple of obvious ones. Number one would be friends, would be the first option. If you're a musician, as in you play an instrument, getting together and jamming or playing together is a great start. Right? You can always, because it's always about the hang afterwards, getting lunch, dinner, whatever, talking music, and that can blossom into not only a collaboration, but a friendship. So those are the places that you start first. If you're a producer or songwriter, you can do something similar to what I did, but now you could scour Instagram and TikTok, aside from YouTube, and find people you really think fit what you're looking for. If you find someone that you think that you're interested in working with, look to see who else follows them and see if there's a connection. It's always better if you're referred to by a friend, right, than just a cold DM. It's always a stronger option. And then finally, if nothing else is really lining up, start sending out cold DMs, just like I did, by the way. Again, they're not the most effective, but they're effective. 98% of them will probably not get a reply. But if you play the numbers, you will get someone interested. I still do a ton of collaborations to this day. I collaborate quite a bit with a crooner named Wyatt Michael, who I think is one of the best crooners around today. Maybe the best. I know that could be controversial, but he is fantastic. Here's a quick snippet of our recent release, Oh Look at Me Now. This is an old tune that Sinatra used to sing, which we both loved. So we came up with a version of this. So here's a quick snippet of that.
So I'm the guy who turned out a lover. Yes, I'm the guy who laughed at those blue diamond rings. One of those things. Oh, look at me now.
Man, he is such a fantastic singer. I hope you'll get the chance to check out the whole song. We've done a few songs that are out right now. Bonacera is fantastic. I love that version we did of that tune. We have a Christmas tune out, Most Wonderful Time of the Year. There's another, That's Life. We did this really kind of cool combination of crooner type sounds with like a hip hop beat, which I think came out awesome too. So check those out. They're fun. I think you'll enjoy them. The bottom line, folks, right, to cap off this episode is collaborations are almost a necessity in today's music world. So what you should be doing now is going out and finding some people to create music with. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today's episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this pod so you can stay up to date with new songs, giveaways, and more importantly, concerts. You guys got to come out to the concerts. I have a show in September at the Vibrato Bar and Grill, which is the best jazz club in town, owned by the famous Herb Alpert. Come check it out. You can also follow me on Instagram at SpicyGmusic, or check out my website, jasongoldmanmusic.com, to see what projects I'm currently working on and to see when I'll be performing next. I'll also post on the website those links to the songs you heard today, just in case you want to head over there and check the full songs out. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Much love. Peace.